Hey everyone, welcome back. Nothing's been happening in this book, so I'm sure you're not really missing me. I know I'm doing a terrible job with this, and I decided I needed to come back. I miss this. And not only that, Instagram and Facebook have decided to send me the trashiest possible books, and they're just so good. They're so terrible. And I feel like I'm doing a disservice by not bringing them to your attention. So we're gonna get through this book. Hopefully it gets more interesting. We're on chapter 4. Um, I'm gonna try to get through the whole chapter. See what happens. All right, let's get on with it. This is Fight from Death, chapter 4. Remember, this is the book where a vampire and a shape-shifting dragon with a werewolf are private investigators, and they're going to a town in Washington to exorcise a vampire inn of ghosts. Book summarized. The drive up the inner side of the peninsula left me breathless, even in the dark. Ralph was feeling it too. He let out a noise suspiciously like a whine as he pressed his nose against the window. As we pulled away from the dock and onto Highway 104, the energy settled in, and the moment we passed the cross street of Lindvall Road, a brooding sense of watchfulness took over. Alex seemed immune, but still he totally focused in on the driving. Are you kidding me? As if he was trying to tune out anything that might be a distraction. Ralph, however, shifted pensively in the back seat. He'd stowed his phone and iPad and suddenly stared out the window. I turned to watch the trees passing by. Now and then there would be a spate of houses, usually on lodge lots or acreage between the stands of forest. Watch for the junction, please. This road will turn into 307 and Highway 104 will turn to the right. We need to take that fork or our drive is going to be a whole lot longer. Papa Yui. Alex flipped the windshield wipers to high. And why do we need to know this? If anyone goes to Washington, can you please watch my video and get to this town because I'm giving you very detailed instructions. You do not need Google. I peered out the window, but by the time I saw the sign leading to the turnoff, so had Alex. We swung right on the easy broad curve and once again found ourselves on a two-lane road. Before long, I could see the glint of the port coming in from between the heavy tree line, especially in the areas that houses hugged the water. Then we were deep into the woods again. The further along we went, the more I sensed something watching us. It didn't feel specifically focused. It wasn't watching us because of who we were, but because we were moving through its territory. Uncomfortable, I shifted in my seat. Ralph leaned forward. I have to take a leak, Alex. I groaned. You can't hold it. Not unless Alex wants the backseat to have a wet spot. Alex grumbled but motioned ahead. There's a turnoff up ahead where we can park. The bushes will have to make do for now. He swerved to the right, coming to park against a broken, rusty gate, attempting to barricade a trail leading down to what I assumed was the port. Ralph leaped out the car and headed for the nearest pile of brush. Alex turned to me and grinned. I hope the boy doesn't get himself stuck in a pile of stinging nettles. Welts like that could ruin his fun for a while to come. I snickered. Yeah, I really could. Shading my eyes with my hand, I stared at the fraying gleam of water coming through the trees. If I hadn't been a dragon, I might not have been able to catch the shimmer, but water was so near I could taste it on my tongue. Mind if I walk down for a moment? I won't be long. Alex muttered something under his breath, but then motioned for me to get out of the car. Go on, but don't be long, and don't go off the path. And watch out. As I said, there are creatures in these woods, creatures that don't like intruders of any kind. I slipped away from the car, softly shutting the door behind me. As I headed around the broken gate, I could hear Ralph finishing up his business behind a bush. A moment later, he was walking beside me. Mind if I come along? He shivered, pulling his windbreaker tighter against the blowing rain and wind. Sure. I actually was glad for the company. I wasn't really afraid. After all, dragon. Not so much can hurt us, but Alex's warning stuck in my head, and my ego wasn't so big to think I was invulnerable, especially in human form, and especially since I could only change into my dragon form underwater. The path wasn't all that long. We broke out of the tree line to find ourselves in an open stretch of land. The trail led to an embankment and overlooking the water. It was hard to estimate how far down it was, but I decided it wasn't a good idea to attempt a recon mission. As we stood there, I glanced over at the thicket of trees. Can you feel them? Something's watching us. Yeah, felt them since we started. I don't know what they are. Not soups in the sense of you or me. They feel almost alien. Also, there are a lot of ghosts. Did you know that Port Gamble is the most haunted city in Washington State? We're almost there. He shifted from one foot to the other. For a werewolf, he was really fidgety. Shimmer, Earthside is a lot different from your home. I think in the Dragon Reaches, you expect things to be a certain way because they've always been that way. But here, there's so many variables. Never take anything for granted here, and don't take anything at face value. He punctuated his warning with a smile, but it still felt like a warning. Ooh, intrigue. I exhaled slowly, realizing I'd been holding my breath for the past couple of minutes. The skin on my arms had puckered into these bumps, and the hair was standing up at the back of my neck. What do you think lives out here? He shrugged. Out on the peninsula, old things, older than me, older than even you. Bigfoot lives here, Sasquatch. He's not from this planet. At least that's what a lot of supes believe, and he's dangerous if you get too close. But there are things that even make even Bigfoot look like your best buddy. When we're hanging around Port Townsend, it's best if you don't engage the local entities too much. We don't want them pinning a target on your back. And with that, he turned on his heel and headed back to the car. I tried to catch up to him, thrusting my hands in my pockets. My breath came out in a little white puff thanks to the cold. Ralph, what's the real reason Alex and Patrick had a falling out? I think I know Alex well enough by now to figure out it wasn't over $1,000. Ralph glanced at me, then stopped before we were within earshot of the car. I'm not positive, but Bet told me that the time Babette told me that Alex and Patrick were like brothers. Patrick was still alive at the time, and Alex liked him a lot. Then Patrick got sick and asked Alex to turn him into a vampire. Alex refused. He didn't want to be responsible. Patrick broke off the relationship and apparently found another vamp to help him. Sick as in terminal. Patrick didn't want to die, and he wanted to be turned before he wasted away. Beth says he was diagnosed with aplastic anemia. They aren't sure what triggered it. This was a long time ago, but he was dying. Ralph glanced at the woods. We're being watched very carefully. I know. I can feel it. I could also hear the sounds of something moving around in the bushes. Whatever it was incredibly quiet. If I'd been human, I might not have noticed the noise. But the creep factor was incredibly high, and I realized that I was shivering. Here's a thought. Let's get back to the car and lock the doors. I like that thought. Ralph started to jogging, and I followed. A moment later, we came to the gate and hurried to the Range Rover. I slammed my door, locking it, reaching for my seatbelt with a sigh of relief. Alex touched my face. You find what you wanted to find out? He turned the ignition key and we eased back into the rain-soaked road. I gazed out into the dark night. Mostly, I guess. But inside, I realized that I wasn't even sure what it was I've been searching for. Man, this book is like veering wildly in strange directions. Before long, the forest opened out and we could see the houses to the left and the port to the right. In the daylight, it was probably lovely. At night, there was a definite small-town weirdness factor. From what I could tell, the houses were historical in look. Most were probably as old as they appeared to be. I'd have to see them in the daytime to know for sure, but from what I could tell, they seemed to be kept up to snuff with almost fanatical attention. As we slowed to match the speed limit of the town, I realized that I was seeing wispy figures along the roadside. Every now and then one would pass us. Is anybody else seeing... I paused, not wanting to sound like a fruitcake. People in the mist? Yeah. You're a freaking shape-shifting dragon. I don't think you can sound like a fruitcake. I sound like a fruitcake. Ralph was breathing heavier, and he leaned against the window as we came to what appeared to be the center of town. Not much further, the land would end at the water's edge, but before we could reach the shore, Highway 104 turned west, and we curved with it. After a few minutes, and we passed through what was... Another few minutes, and we'd passed through what there was of the tiny city and was back into the woodlands. I turned to Alex. How much longer before we reach Port Townsend? We'll be coming to the Hood Canal Bridge in just a couple of minutes. Once we cross that, another half hour, maybe 40 minutes given the rain. I grimaced. I really botched things with the ferry in Coopville. I'm sorry. Ralph pulled out his iPad. A moment later, he said, Not really. Even I didn't know you need reservations on it, and obviously neither did Alex. From what it says here on the Washington State Ferries app, this next sailing that we'd even have a chance of making would have been the last one. The stats here say it was full, so if we had waited, we still have to turn around and come this route. I flashed him a grateful smile, and he winked at me. Alex noticed the interplay because he let out a chuckle. Could have been worse, love. As it is, we reached the high tide B and B before midnight, so no harm, no foul. It's not like Patrick's waiting on us so he can get to bed, at least not till sunrise. How much longer is this chapter? It's way longer than I expected it to be. So we're going to have to hit a stopping point. I flashed The Hood Canal Bridge, like 520 over Lake Washington, was another floating bridge. Western Washington seemed to make good use of the pontoon bridges, and at least two of the world's longest. You do realize this bridge went down in 1979? Alex grinned at Ralph and let out a grumble. Wonderful, and yes, I just tried to forget it. At least, if history repeated itself tonight, Shimmer would be fine. She could just shift and come up on the shore with no problem. I, on the other hand, am not quite so fond of swimming, especially in frigid temperatures. That's okay, Ralph. I'd save you. I was beginning to realize just how much Alex enjoyed teasing his staff, though I'd never seen him be cruel about it. In fact, if I was honest with myself, he got on my nerves, mostly because I hadn't wanted to admit my attraction to him. The vampire had a wicked sense of humor and enjoyed using it. Was there a joke that we were not aware of? Ralph, on the other hand, was staring suspiciously out the window at the water. The bridge felt narrow as it stretched into the darkness. Even the streetlights that illuminated the roadway could barely pierce the fog that had risen to wash across the area. It took only a few minutes to cross the span, which stretched out further than a mile, but still felt longer. But then we were on the other side and headed up the interior of the peninsula, and once again the sense of being watched rested heavily on my shoulders. I distracted myself as much as I could, and finally, half an hour later, we entered the town of Port Townsend. Alright, I think I'll have to save the rest of it for the next time, which hopefully will be in a couple of days. I'll try to get these out to you guys. But anyway, they're being watched. Sasquatch is an alien. And we may have to find another book soon. But anyway, have a wonderful night. Do stay warm out there. It got crazy cold for absolutely no reason too quickly. And see you next time.